right. So under the enable features, I've shown you how the expand all and the collapse all works. You will be able to see everything, the headings like this, and to the extreme right hand side, there's something called, a little arrow mark that you see there. So if you click on that, all these will actually appear in different tabs for us. Okay. So if you click on this, then it will go to the single page display, and this would actually be helpful if you are trying to search something. So what I mean to say is, if I collapse all, and if I have these in different tabs, I want to search something which I have in employees, let us say, right? So if I'm in the company tab and I try to search for that, I'm not going to find that. Okay, so what usually people do is just drop it down to one page, and then when you search for it, it will be visible, right? But then the other view that we've seen, that's a little comfortable view, because you would be able to see the headings in one page, right, rather than scrolling down and seeing the other options that you see over there. So you have company, accounting, tax, transactions, items, inventory, employees, CRM, analytics, and web presence. So we'll see in each section the enable features. This is the enable features options. So last time around, we have seen how the navigation works, how to log into Netsuite, what exactly are the transactions, what is the master data, what is your lists transaction that you have over there. We've seen how to install the bundles, the initial bundle, which actually gets installed on Netsuite, right? So I've shown you how to go to the bundles. This is where you go to the bundle, search for the bundle and install that particular bundle. So if, let us say you have a manufacturing SKU, or let us say you have a warehouse and distribution SKU. So for each module, each, different, what do you call, segment, right? Industries, you have different bundles that need to be installed. So along with those bundles, you will have the dashboards and the roles customized for those particular SKUs. Let us say you have a manufacturing SKU wherein you want someone from a warehouse, right? Warehouse personnel, a person who actually builds your assemblies, right? So that way you will have the roles customized, and the permissions and the levels of permissions and everything will be customized. As a standard roles, right? However, the customers would they would actually customize these roles to put additional bundles or additional permissions or levels that they want. That can be done, right? So now we are in the enable features part, and to the extreme right hand side, you've got an option wherein if you click on this, all the enable features will be available for you in a single page. So this way you can actually search for, let us say, compensation tracking that you're searching, right? If you click on this, this would be available on this page. However, if you are in the other view wherein you are collapsing everything, right? Okay, so if you collapse everything, you will not be able to find it in the same page that you have the compensation and tracking. However, if you go to the employees and then search, that is when you will find that there's something called as compensation tracking. Okay, so in a single page, if you want to search something out of the enable features that you have, then the other view helps you. But then this view would give you, a good traction, a good look at what all headings that you have at the top, like, company accounting, tax, transactions, items, and inventory. So all this can be done. Along with that, if you go into the other view, there is something called as collapse all. Okay, so if you click on this, you would be able to see only the headings for those tabs that you see there. And as and when you click on this, the options would be visible for you. Okay. So as of now, let's go back to the standard view that we have. All right. Right. So this is the, in each segment, each tab that we have a company accounting, which is when I talk about the company. So this is a company-wide enable features that you have, what you can enable, what you can disable. We spoke about the departments, classes, and locations already the other day. these three options, we already spoke about it. So we will speak about something else. Whatever we have under that today. So you have accounting, tax, transactions, items inventory, employees, analytics, web presence. So we'll see what each tab has got for us. So under the company, this is where the projects has to be enabled. Now, along with record to report, order to cash, procure to pay modules, there is a particular module which is called as project to cash, okay? Wherein we will be able to create the projects, we'll be able to create the tasks, milestones for those tasks, right? Various types of billing, like, if it's a time and material billing, or if it is milestone billing, or if it is now there are certain different kinds of resource allocation part would also be there, right? So you can create those projects wherein it would be available here. If you see under the relationships, there is something called as, okay, they have named it as jobs. However, this is projects, okay? They've renamed it. Well, I've shown you the other day, right? Wherein you're going to rename record transactions, right? So here somebody must have renamed my projects to be reflecting as jobs, and that is the reason you see that over there. So you might get confused initially as to why we have different names for this, but somebody must have changed it. So I can change it back actually. Let us say we'll put that back to projects, and this will be renamed as projects again. Okay. So under the enable features, you can enable this projects, project management, planned work, job cost and project budgeting, advanced project profitability. So these are all the options. And by the way, this is the advanced feature of NetSuite. This project to cash will not be available with the standard let us say warehouse and distribution or manufacturing SKU or whatever it is. So this comes with an additional cost. Customer has to buy a license for these projects that I'm showing you right now. And this is used for the software services industry, SaaS, software as a service, right? So whoever is dealing with services, like let us say they do not have the inventory items in their warehouse, rather. So any company which has software as a service, maybe they have labor who actually do the painting work, the denting, or any manufacturing work which is a service, rather. So for that particular industry, there are projects which are created, and this is a advanced bundle that we have for NetSuite.
Okay, I do have a question though before we go on, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of things, right? So one, uh, I'm working in the nonprofit industry, particularly for a journal publication company. Okay, a nonprofit industry journal publication. Maybe we can call that maybe media and publishing. Okay, so if we can keep this training along those lines, that'll be helpful. I'm not doing anything manufacturing or software as a service. So
Absolutely.
that's one thing. Then another thing which I also want us to keep in mind, or just I want to clarify is, so let's say I turn on project tracking because I've used this project tracking in some other software like QuickBooks and all that. So let's say I turn it on, right? Will it be available for me to select if I wanted to raise a journal entry? I'm really curious because the way I've used project before is not really from a resource planning perspective. I've used project to track the individual programs that we've done, so such that I can collect cost and revenue based on that program and I can determine the profitability. So I'm just curious to see how it works in NetSuite. So let's turn it on. Let's try to create a journal entry. Let's see, will I have the option to select a project from a journal entry? And let me see the reporting capabilities. I think I'm really interested in this. So if you don't know, if you don't mind, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see that. When we get to the transactions, we can take a look at that.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay.
Great. So coming to the ERP, general options that you have. So you have multiple units of measure that you can enable, right? So when I say multiple units of measure, I'm pretty sure you understand what that means. right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go into the units of measure, let us say you have the base unit, which is weight. Okay. So I can actually define my base unit as weight, and I can put in multiple conversions like, kilograms, grams, pounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
this,
Yep.
if you enable this multiple units of measure, that is when you can do that. Or else it will be only single unit of measure, wherein for weight you can just specify kgs and you cannot mention anything else. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this use delete deletion reason. Now, whenever you create a transaction within NetSuite, you will, as an administrator, if you have full access to the NetSuite system, then you will be able to delete that. However, before deleting, the NetSuite will ask you for a deletion reason. A little pop-up comes up, why do you want to delete, and that will be stored in the backend. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Multi-subsidiary customer. So if you enable this particular feature, when we are creating the customers, I go into lists, relationships, and my customers. Okay. So I think let's open one of the customers that we have. So if you are not enabling the multi-subsidiary customer feature, right,
Mm-hmm.
you will be able to create the customer only for one subsidiary. You will not be able to create it for multiple subsidiaries. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
However, when
Mm-hmm.
you enable the multi-subsidiary feature, then you will have an option wherein you can select the primary subsidiary and the secondary subsidiary, and you will be able to use it for any subsidiary that you want, right? When you put in a sales order, for that matter, right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there will be an option for you to select your subsidiaries based on your customer that you have. I can say my Sky Zone subsidiary, I can add it, and then my Josh test is one of the subsidiaries which I can add it. So when I put in a sales order, initially it pulls up the primary subsidiary, which is Canada, and
Mm-hmm.
I will have an option to actually change the subsidiary over there, which means I can do my business with this customer for from different subsidiaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can raise a sales order for this customer through a Canada subsidiary, through a SkyZone subsidiary, and through Josh Test subsidiary as well. So that's how your multi-subsidiary customer would actually work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, coming to the advanced numbering. So when you enable this advanced numbering, I want to show you something. So if you go here, and if you go into the auto-generated numbers, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here you can set up the prefix and suffix for your entities, for your document numbers, for your CRM related stuff, and all those things. So what happens here is that let us say for my client, I say CL should be my prefix, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I can enable this and then click on CL, right? I say suffix as NT, probably. I just, anything that I want. And then I can specify the minimum digits that it has to generate as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what happens here is now, let me bring up a notepad for you. Right. So with this setting, my client, whenever I create the initial client, it starts with CL. All right. And then the current number is 2, which means the next number is going to start from 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Yeah. 3 and then NT. This is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I create another client next time, when I enable this feature and when I create another client next time, this is how it works. And then it increments just like this.
Okay.
Okay, that's how it works. So that is how your prefix, your suffix is going to work. Now, in the other there's something called as allow override. Okay, now what this
Mm-hmm.
does is, if you select this option, allow override, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
creating a customer for the first time, right? It generates my client ID as this. However, if I allow the users to override this, then I can do this of my choice.
Okay.
which ideally is not a business case, because the administrators would want to control the way these numbers are created, right? The entities, the
Mm-hmm.
document numbers, the CRM, and everything that gets created, they want to control it. So obviously they are not gonna allow the users to change the way they want it to be.
Right.
And then you can specify what's your initial number as well, which means, if I specify an initial number, right? And then I'm creating the record now. So 1003, this is how it works. My initial number is 1000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 1001, 1002, it just gets incrementing, it keeps on incrementing by 1000 numbers that you have there. And that's how it works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this little update option that you have here, you can choose this. I mean, once you save this, you can choose to update the initial number later on. Maybe let us say I've already created like 1000 customers. And now I do
Mm-hmm.
not want that to be starting from 2000. Rather, I want to start from 5000. So I can mention 5000 here and click on update and save it. It just works. It goes to the initial number, sets it as 5000 for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, you can do this for project, employee, partner, sub-partner, vendor. So hope that's clear. Now, coming to the document numbers. So the document numbers also work exactly the same way. Like, the prefix, suffix, and everything are still the same. However, there are certain options which are called as use subsidiary and use location. Okay. When you select use subsidiary, the other one will get grayed out, right? And when
Mm-hmm.
you say use location, this one gets grayed out. The way this works is when I go to the subsidiaries, okay, let us say I'm going to go to the subsidiary here. And I edit this, okay? So there's something called as document number prefix, okay? On the subsidiary part, there is something called as document number prefix. So what I want to do is my subsidiary, someone has named it as British Pound. Usually that's not how it works, but this is a test scenario, something someone has made that. So I can say my prefix is going to be BP, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I can save that. So whenever I create a customer for this particular subsidiary, then this is how it works. It just appends the document number prefix if you select use subsidiary over here. Likewise, on the location, it could either be subsidiary or the location. So when you go to the location here, when you click on use location, and if you do this, there is a document number prefix on the location as well, right? So I can go to the new location, and then there is a document number prefix for the location as well. So
Okay, so
whenever
I
you
have a question.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
before you
Yeah,
go on, I have a question.
yeah.
So if I do that and if I enable the multi-entity customer subsidiary, right? The
Hmm.
multi-customer subsidiary feature that you told me about. So does it mean that that same customer would not have the same prefix for all the entities? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. So without having the subsidiary, if you are doing a multi-subsidiary customer, right? In that
Mm-hmm.
case, you will have only the same name will be reflecting across all the subsidiaries for you.
Mm-hmm. But if I also check off
One
this,
second, 1 second. So before you go there, what I wanted to say was for the entities, you won't have that option, by the way. The use subsidiary, use location option will not be available for the entities. This is only for the document numbers, if you see.
okay,
Okay. So if you are creating customers for different subsidiaries, it's still going to be only same name. However,
okay,
you can change the subsidiaries and use those customers for different subsidiaries, right? I mean, the
mm-hmm.
billing happen, the invoicing happens on the other subsidiary, and everything. I mean, all the transactions, right from the sales order, the invoicing, the returns, and everything happen on one subsidiary when you select a particular subsidiary on that client. So these entities will not have the subsidiary selection option, only the document numbers, because these are subsidiary specific, right? I mean, you cannot have multi-subsidiary assembly build or multi-subsidiary blanket purchase order. That option will not be there.
Right.
So that's the reason you have this use subsidiary and use location option here. So you can use either of them. You can use either the subsidiary as a prefix or the location as a prefix for you when you are dealing with the document numbers here.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on that?
No. So I think you can go on.
Right. So the advanced numbering option that we have enabled is actually this, right? So when you do this, there is another option wherein you click on this advanced numbering rule sets. Okay. So let me show that to you. You can click on that. It will go to the advanced numbering rule set. You can set up, certain rules for yourself wherein what happened? Maybe it's one more. Just a second. You can set up certain rules for your advanced numbering. Actually, it is not giving us an option for that. I don't know if it is because of the permissions in the custom administrator role that we have. Yeah, so usually there is a new option that you can click over here and create a rule for yourself, and then based on that rule it actually generates the numbers that we're talking about. Okay. Yeah. So that's about the advanced numbering and and the segmentation, how you add prefix and suffix to your. Do you want me to create one and show how it's going to generate right with this options?
Yeah, please let's try it. Yeah, let's try it.
Okay, let me save that.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah. That's about the advanced numbering then. So again, this is a resource management, which we spoke about already, wherein the resource allocation can be done for the projects. Let's not get into that. So here is where you would actually enable the multiple currencies for your customers. Let us say your customer deals with multiple currencies, like Chinese, Japanese yen, Canadian dollars, US dollars. So all these things can be enabled. And when you do that, you can create your currencies over here. You go into lists, accounting, currencies, and then the currency exchange rates, right? So these options will be available. So these are the different currencies that you can specify. And along with that, you can also mention the currency exchange rates for your multiple currencies that you do, like, and what's going to be from a Canadian dollar to a British pound, what's the effective date for that, right? So you can keep changing these exchange rates with the way they actually change. Okay.
So does NetSuite automatically update this rate, or you have to do it manually?
It does update the rate automatically, but if you want to change it, you can still do that.
Okay.
Right. And so file cabinet, we spoke about the file cabinet the other day, right? You go into the documents, files, and then file cabinet. So this option will be available only if you enable this during the data management. You have to enable the file cabinet, and that is when this would be available. Oh, I think we spoke about creating a customer, and we wanted to see how that works, right? Sorry.
Right.
Okay, let's create a customer for us. So I go into new. Well, let's just fill in the mandatory fields for now, and then I will show you how it actually works. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you can put in the email address here, and then this is where you select the primary subsidiary. Okay. And you can select multiple subsidiary over here as well. Just I have shown just the way I've shown you earlier. Okay. Let's not get into all the other tabs, but we just wanted to see what would be the ID that gets generated. You see this to be generated right now. So since we've put in the advanced numbering and we've put in the prefix and suffix for the client, we will see how this gets generated. And when I get into the sales order stuff, you see this? Okay. So that's how it gets generated when you actually do that. Alrighty, so let's go back. Now, the duplicate detection and merge. Okay, so NetSuite provides an automatic duplicate detection for customers, leads, vendors, and it merges the duplicate records as well. So how does that do? When we go into the setup, and there is something called as duplicate detection. Okay, so if you scroll down, you see this
Mm-hmm.
under the company, you have the duplicate detection. So when I go into this, there's a little setup that you need to do, right? So you can detect your duplicate customers, duplicate vendors, duplicate partners, and contacts. And how do you've got to set up certain okay, you can actually do this as well, to detect duplicates across subsidiaries. All right, that can be done as well. So how can you do this now? As of now, I on the client fields to match on, I said email domain only, which means if I'm creating a customer, I mean if I'm putting in an email ID, detect this as duplicate, because we're just saying that the domain, even if the domain matches, right? We want this to be giving us an option as duplicates, right? So rather than doing that, usually what people do is, in a business scenario, we actually do the full email. Okay, you see this? This is how it's usually done, so that even if I have the email addresses like this, it should not be, detecting the customer as duplicate. Rather, only if I have the email address like what I have shown, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Only in this case, this has to detect as a duplicate. So I can say if my email full is an option, that is when we actually need to detect this as a duplicate. That is one criteria. Now, you can also say, you can put in another criteria as well. Along with email ID, I can say I want to, put my phone number as well, right? But when you do this, the system identifies your duplicate criteria only if it matches both the cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
The email has to be matching and the phone number also has to be matching. Only then it detects it as a duplicate for us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. So that's one thing. Now, there are certain excluded domains for us, as in Gmail, Hotmail, Rediff, right? Simpatica, Verizon, Yahoo, because these domains that I see here are most commonly used by a lot of people, like Cox, Earthlink, Comcast. All these things are emails that probably a lot of people use. So, and this actually is excluded only when you have mentioned this as domain only, right? You see this domain only,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this gets excluded only if you are using that as domain only. Anyways, if you mention email full, then obviously it will search for the full email address only. It will not search for the only domain option, right? So in that case,
Mm-hmm.
that should be fine. So these are the excluded domains that you have from the duplicate detection criteria. And on the other preferences, now what do you want to do once you identify these duplicates with NetSuite? How do you want to proceed, right? So one thing is show duplicate warning pop up on records. Whenever you're trying to create, a customer with a similar email address, then it will throw a warning message saying that a customer already exists with the same name or with same email ID, just a warning message. And then how do you resolve it? Do you want to resolve that manually, or do you want NetSuite to resolve that for you by deleting the duplicates access? So, which we do not want that to happen, right? Sometimes we may want to have customers with same email, I mean, two different customers with same email address as well, right? Because they might be having different entities from different states, and you might want to create it with different names and with the same email ID. In that case, we actually do it manually. So when you select this manually, what happens is, when you go to the lists, there is something called as duplicate entity duplicate resolution. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
navigate to lists, mass update, and then entity duplicate resolution. So I go here and You see this? Now, as of now, since I have selected, the full email address, I see a couple of customers which are already duplicate for us. So why are these duplicate? Let us see. Let's get into the customers. I can open it from here only, by the way. There are hyperlinks to my customers, right? I can open them. So these are two leads which I have, kalyan@gmail.com and then kalyan@gmail.com. So these are two different leads which I have with the same email ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason why my NetSuite is actually showing them as duplicate. So what I can do is I can select one as a primary, one as a duplicate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Hina set, I can select as primary and the other one as duplicate, and I say submit selected. Okay. So what this happens is it deletes Tina for us, and then it keeps the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Let us say it still says it's cute. By the way, if there are certain transactions for that customer, then it won't delete the transactions. I mean, it won't delete the customer, by the way. You will get an error saying that there are certain transactions on the other customer, and you will not be able to proceed further unless you delete those transactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So looks like there might be certain transactions with the other customer, and that's the reason it is not resolving it for now, but it might take some time. It searches for all the available transactions, and then it will show what needs to be done with the other customer there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's about there you go. It got resolved actually. It deleted Tina set. So if I search for Tina set right now, it won't be available because it's already deleted. However, if I search for Hina, then it will be available as a lead for me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that's clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's about the duplicate resolution status, wherein you will be able to see the status of that as well. This is the duplicate. This is the entity duplicate resolution. This is the duplicate resolution status page that we've come across right now. Okay. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's about your duplicate resolution. Let's close this out. So this is the one which you see this record may have duplicates is what it says. This is a warning that we've done. But if I refresh this, I don't think it should be available right now because it's deleted. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let us go to the next feature that we have, which is, I think we're done with this. So mobile push notifications, if you want the mobile push notifications for your for the company, then you can enable this option. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So we are done with the company part. Let's get into the accounting. So I think you're more interested in this accounting. So to enable the accounts receivable, the accounts payable, the accounting part. So usually when when we are dealing with the NetSuite, when we are trying to enable the features, these are the basic features that we actually enable because we want the sales, which is AR, and we want purchase, which is AP, right? And then the accounting. So when very rarely there might be a scenario where certain customers do not use the accounting on NetSuite. They might have accounting on a different ERP, and
Mm-hmm.
they do not want to use accounting. Though in that case, you can actually disable this accounting part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and certain customers may not use the AR in NetSuite. They might use it on Salesforce, right? In that case, you disable the AR part, and some of them may not use the purchasing on NetSuite. They might use Bill.com, or they might use some other tool, some other ERP. In that case, they disable this AP. However, there might be integrations that flow in from these other tools that I'm talking about, Salesforce to NetSuite, Bill.com to NetSuite, QuickBooks to NetSuite for accounting. So these integrations, when they are in place, you can disable these features, but then the transactions that happen on the other ERP, they would still flow in to NetSuite as transactions. Once you enter them in Salesforce and you sync them, they automatically flow onto NetSuite as a sales order or an invoice. And for these net integrations to be working, there are certain connectors that need to be used, like a Celigo or a Boomi connector, right? So technical consultants who are with the company, they are actually do these integrations between different products, right? Different ERPs.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then accounting periods. So, once you enable the accounting periods get enabled as well. So where can you see the accounting periods? You go into setup, accounting, and then there's something called as manage accounting periods. If I scroll down, uh, I think I'm scrolling down way too fast. All right. So this is your manage accounting periods. So what all can you do with this manage accounting periods? You can set up a full year, right? You click on this full year option. As of now, I think only 2024 and 25 are set up. But then if you click on this setup full year and then you select
Mm-hmm.
2026, right? I'm not, doing a 2026 as of now, but then this would be your period format. What is the calendar months, year in period, time and everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once you click on save, it automatically generates the complete year for you, like starting from January, Feb, March, and April. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can set up a quarter only. You can set up the base period also. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
when you want to close out your periods, let us say we are in April right now. Okay. So when you want to close out the period, each period, there are certain checklists that you have to follow, which the accounting team usually does at the end of the month, as you know, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you got to click on this checklist, and you have to lock your AP transactions, AR transactions, and lock all, right? Once you do this, you click on this task and you mark all, submit, right? When you do that, the we are actually locking all the subsidiaries that I have here.
Mm-hmm.
The status changes to green. So likewise, you've got to lock AP, lock all, and then you need to resolve date period matches, right? You're reviewing your negative inventory. Manually you go there. So you review all these things. Okay. Each step has to be followed in order for you to close out this particular period there. Okay. So what they do is initially on 30th of every month or 31st of every month, they lock AP, AR, they lock everything. Okay. These are the three different things that you would do first so that nobody would put in any transactions, right?
Right.
You do not
Right.
want anybody to put in sales orders or purchase orders, or you do not want anybody doing any transactions in that particular month. So you lock these three things, and then you go to this resolve there. See, if you see, the prerequisite for resolve date period matches is lock all. Now, the
Got it.
prerequisite for lock all would be a lock AP. So lock AP and AR, by the way. So I'm going to lock my AP AR.
But when you lock, can you reopen?
When you lock what? I'm sorry.
When you lock, can you
Uh,
reopen?
oh, okay. So you just got to click on this again,
Okay. Got
right?
it.
You
Okay.
click on this again, and then just it's locked as of now. You click on submit. Oh, did I not mark all? Oh
No,
yeah,
I don't think you did.
unmark all, and then
Okay.
click
Submit.
on
Okay. Got
submit,
it.
and then
Mhm.
it reopens everything. Okay, let's reopen this because we might put in some transaction. Not only we, but people who are doing the test transactions would be able to put in that.
Okay. So you wanted to look at the resolve dates, period mismatches, and all that.
Hmm.
Um.
Yeah, will do. Let me log this then. Okay, so once that's done, These are manual tasks, by the way. Previous period open. Okay, so you're not able to close, I mean, check this resolve date period matches. The reason for that is if I go into the list,
Uh-huh.
my previous period is open. The March and February, they're still open.
Okay.
So I first have to close out the previous periods, only then I'll be able to do this. Okay, the previous period for this was also open, it says. Let's see. Let's go back. Uh, all right, 2024 is my starting period here. So it should allow us. Okay. Uh, okay, that's what we have unassigned. Unassigned. Okay, see, there are periods open since 2014 onward. So let's take the first period in 2014. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is already locked. Yeah. So resolve date period matches. This is also done. So if I open this, okay, you just have to mark this task as completed. Okay, you can resolve
Okay.
your date period mismatches, and then I can go back to my period close and mark this task as complete. So they actually, go into the date period mismatches. They would see if anything, if there is a mismatch, they come here and then mark task as complete. Okay. So once you do that, the other option that you have here would actually get enabled, which is review negative inventory. Okay. I click
Okay.
on this review negative inventory. So manually, the warehouse personnel would go into the inventory stuff. They would see if there is any
Right.
negative
Right.
inventory
Right.
in that. They would see everything, and if they know that there's no negative inventory, or if they've already resolved that, then they just review the negative inventory and mark this task as complete again.
Got it. So basically, so these are all manual tasks that will be performed.
Absolutely,
Ah,
these are manual
okay.
tasks. However, there is an option. Okay, you get into setup. Uh, where's that? You go into setup, accounting, and there's something called as accounting preferences. Okay, so when I
Mm-hmm.
go into this accounting preferences, there is something called as quick period close. I think it's called as quick. Yeah, you say this. Allow quick close of accounting periods. Okay, so if you,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we haven't got into the accounting preferences yet, but since I'm showing you the periods, I'm just showing you this particular feature that we have. We will discuss all these things in detail when we get into the accounting preferences. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I select this allow quick close of periods, right? Now I save this. And then I go back to my manage accounting periods. Okay. So once I go there, oh, quick close. We will get a button actually, which says quick close here, but somehow I did not get it. Certain features, it might take some time on my sandbox account, and that's the reason, some other things won't get enabled immediately, but
Mm-hmm.
allow quick close of accounting period. So if you click on this field help, right, it will show you what exactly I meant. So this quick close feature, with one click, this feature enables you to mark complete each task in the period closed list for more than one open accounting periods. Okay, which means if I close December 2023, okay,
Uh-huh.
with this particular feature, there will be a feature which gets enabled here, which is a quick close. I don't know why is it not coming up. However, so if I click on that and if I close December 2023, right,
Mm-hmm.
every period before December 2023 gets closed automatically. Okay, which means let us say my September was open. Okay, my
Mhm.
October was open,
Mhm.
November is open, and December is open. So if I use that quick close option, right, I don't have to go through all these checklists, by the way. When I have that quick close button enabled for me, I don't have to, you know, go through all these checklists. It's just a single button click. I click that and then close all the periods. Okay. Now, this, why you may ask, what is the business case behind this, right? The business case is that, let us say the January is closed already, January 24th. Okay. But one of the users want to put in some transaction which was missed, right?
Mhm.
So as an administrator, as a controller, you would open that period by going through this checklist. Okay. And then once the transaction is done, once the user confirms that it is done, then you can directly click on the quick close rather than going through the entire checklist, because you don't want to do that, right? There's only one transaction and the transaction has happened in front of you. So you don't have to go through the entire checklist process once again, but just click on that quick close and then close out that period, right?
Mhm.
For that purpose, that okay, I know why is it not available. So I think in this administrator role, the customer administrator role that they've created, probably they've not given us the permission for that quick close.
Okay.
That is the reason you don't see it over here. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
that is about your. Okay, now one other important thing in the checklist is that when you are dealing with the intercompany transactions, right,
Mhm.
create intercompany adjustments. So this is the only option from this which actually creates the adjustments, creates the intercompany, the journal entries for you when you're doing this particular step. Okay.
Okay.
So you might have the intercompany purchase orders and sales orders which are already created, but the journal entries would not be created until you click on this create intercompany adjustments and close it.
Okay. And this is something which we are going to get to, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We will see that when we're doing the intercompany stuff. Okay. All right. Uh, yeah, calculating of the consolidated exchange rates. This also generates, recognizing the revenue. All these things happen with your closing of the periods. Okay. All right. So here you can actually enable and disable your dynamic allocation, the expense allocations, right? So if you want to allocate your expense between your departments, classes, and locations, right? Various departments, you might have one expense that you want to distribute between, certain departments. Then you can use this expense allocation. I mean, if you don't enable this expense allocation, then that feature will not be available.
Okay. So if it's enabled, how do we use it? Let's just quickly just see an example briefly.
Yeah, we'll see that when we go into the transactions, right?
Okay.
We are
Okay.
doing
Good.
the
Beautiful.
transactions
Beautiful.
and everything. I'll certainly show that to you. So expense allocation. Okay, you can have your amortization templates. That is the as far as the amortization is concerned, you can put in your expense reports, right? The employees, they can put in the expenses, and when you are putting in a transaction, let us say a purchase order, right? Here you can select your expense. Along with your items, you can select the expenses as well. As of now, I see only the items. Okay. However, when I go into my transactions and okay, I need to enable the expenses on my purchase order. So it's gonna be in the items and inventory. I don't know if it's a part of the accounting features, accounting preferences. I go to my accounting preferences and yeah, I think it's in here. Allow expenses on purchases. Okay. So I have to allow this. Only then I would be able to enter expenses on my purchase order. So let me enable this.
Hmm.
Okay, you see this now? I've got the expenses, and then the second tab is for items. So if you have to enable the expense allocation, and this is one of the accounting preferences that you need to set up. Okay. Any questions on that, Toby?
No.
Okay, great. Right. So this is the intercompany framework that you have to enable. Maybe there's no elimination subsidiary in that. So you see this? To enable this feature, you must create an elimination subsidiary as a subsidiary of root subsidiary. That is when you will be able to do that. So we'll do that, when we get into the transactions. I will
Okay.
show. And, by the way, when we are doing the transactions, and if there is certain things that I have to show to you on the enable features and accounting preferences, then we will switch back and forth. Don't worry about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
still
Okay.
I'll still show you how things work with and without enabling these features. So as of now, we're just talking about what these enable features would actually do, right? So
Hmm.
we can do that. We can switch back and forth between enable features and all, and I'll show the transactions. What is a
Hmm.
consolidated payment? So your customers can have child customers and parent customers as well, right? They can roll up to your parent customer. Let us say
Hmm.
this is how you can have it, right? So when you enable your consolidated payments and you're doing transactions with your any child customers also, right? So top level customers, you can actually receive the payments from your parent customer as well. It's not mandatory that you need to receive it from child one or child two when you're dealing with them. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
You can get the payments, credits, deposits through the top level customers or individual customers and print those consolidated customer statements as well when you do that. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Now, what is this in transit payment? So when you put in a purchase order, you make a payment to your vendor after receiving the material, right? So if you enable this in transit payments, what happens is as and when you make the payment, the payment lands up in the in transit process. And when you get a confirmation from your vendor saying that they have received the payment, that is when you can actually, process that particular payment,
Hmm.
right? So as you know, all these transactions that we're talking about, the vendor payments, the customer payments vendor payments that you make, customer payments that you receive, everything happens outside of NetSuite, right? There is, it's not that we land up on the internet banking page through NetSuite and then, you end up making a payment over there and receive payments. No, it doesn't work that way.
Hmm.
Every transaction has to be done twice. One is an outside transaction, that is the original bank transaction that you do through a check or a cash payment or a net banking. Whatever you do has to be outside of NetSuite. And once that's done, users get back to the NetSuite and record it on NetSuite. It's not that
Yes.
they're actually making. I mean, it's the same with all the ERPs. It's not only with NetSuite. So the ERP that you have is basically for recording the transactions, right?
Hmm.
One second. All right. So vendor prepayments, if you enable that, there will be, pay single vendor that you can actually make a payment through, right? So there is vendor prepayment. When you enable, you will have this option. Okay. So even before you put in any transaction, let us say there is no purchase order and there's no bill yet, right? The vendor bill has not been generated, but still you would be able to do a vendor prepayment because certain vendors might want you to make an advance payment because of high value of the goods, right? You might be buying something which is of very high value, so they want to make a half payment before they send out the material, right? So that is when the vendor prepayment is used. And once this vendor prepayment is entered into the system, let us say there is a $500,000 payment that you've made, right? So this $500,000 payment that you make would actually be reflecting as an advance on that particular vendor. And when you make the payment next time, probably you might want to pay $1 million, right? The entire consignment is for $1 million. So when you want to make a payment for $1 million, it knocks off this $500,000 from here, and then you can make the payment for the rest. That's how the prepayment works. So you can have your multiple calendars available there, and then statistical accounts. Okay. That's one thing. Now, what is a balancing segments? Okay. So while creating your journal entries, right, you can actually create your own balancing segments that you want to do. That is one thing. And you can also create your own custom segments as well. So if I scroll down here, I have the subsidiary class and location, right? But along with these, there is something called as custom segment, right? So let us say the customer has something else like a division, right? They probably have classes, departments, and locations. However, they might have a fourth segment as well, which they want to show it up in the reporting, right? In that case, we have something called as custom segments. So you scroll down, go to the accounting preferences. You got to search for those. Here's your balancing segments, by the way, right? So you can create the balancing segment from here. Custom segments. There is an option where you can enable the custom segments. Let's see. Is it not a part of this? I don't know. One second. I don't think custom segments is a part of enabled features, but let's just, there you go. So the custom segments is already enabled for us. Okay. Allow the creation of custom segments specific to your business, right? You can actually create your own custom segment that you want to create. So start. Give me a second. Okay. So you go into customization. Should be available somewhere. Oh yeah, there you go. Here it is. Custom segment. So I can click on this custom segment, and what I can do is I'll create this as my fourth segmentation. So usually on Netsuite, there are 3 segmentations like classes, departments, and locations. And here I can say that I want to create a 4th segment. Okay. And then I want to show it under the GL impact as well.
Beautiful. Okay.
And I can put in the values for this as well. So I don't know what let's say division 1, division 2.
Okay, like a drop down.
Correct.
Okay, so
I
how
can
many custom segments can I create?
Well, there's no limit to that. I mean, usually customers ask for 3 or 4, but then you can create more than I don't know. I mean, there's no exact number that I
Got
went
it.
off, but then yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So once that's done, you can filter it by class, department, and location. These are the different segmentations that we already have, right? So that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
I can create this. All right. It says the segment will not have any GL impact until you apply this segment to a transaction, right? So once I create that custom segment, it will be available in my setup again. So if I scroll down, uh, it has to come up here actually. Why has it not come down? I don't know. Is there something that I have to enable? Okay, so one thing is that here you can enable it for purchase transaction, for sales transaction. So whenever you're creating it, these options will not be available unless you save that, right? Initially, we did not have all these options over there. So once you save that, only then you will have these options to actually enable it. Okay. You can have it on your expense report, on your item fulfillment, customer payment, assembly. So you can mark all of it, by the way. So
Yeah,
you can have the
yeah.
custom segment enabled for everything. And then in transaction columns, wherever you want. Transaction columns in the sense, on a sale item or, any other item that you have, you can actually enable these segments over there as well. You can put them on the journal entries, on the opportunities, on the item fulfillment page, on the expense reports, right? And all these things, you can enable this particular division that you have there. And then you can, select that particular thing from the drop down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So once you do this, it actually has to be available under my company. Oh, there you go. The activity code. I see the activity code, but I don't. I selected showing list.
Yeah, we should say division, right?
Sorry.
We should say divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. We should see the divisions. So that is what I'm looking out for. There you go. It took some time, but here it is. You see this?
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay.
So this is how you have your lists available. Now, when I get into a purchase order, let us say, okay, I have enabled the purchase order option, right?
Mm-hmm.
See this?
Mm-hmm.
So this is how you can actually create your own custom segment when you're trying to, build anything. You can have that enabled on your every transaction that you can do on Netsuite. Let that be on your purchase order, sale order, or your journal entry, or let that be your intercompany sales order and purchase orders that you want. The reason they want to do that is, when they generate reports, right? I can generate the report based on my location, based on my class, based on my department, and so on and so forth. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
likewise, I also can generate a report based on my division. That is my fourth segmentation that I have. And this will have a GL impact as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's about your custom segments, by the way. So let's close down this. We'll come back to the accounting preferences later on. Let's go this. Okay, there you go. Oh, we were not here, I think. We checked the custom segments, by the way. Balancing segments is where we were. So let's go back to there. Okay. All right, we're done with this. Okay. So now this part that you see here is ARM, Advanced Revenue Management. Okay. Now this is a very advanced topic on NetSuite. right? Usually,
Hmm.
the functional consultants who are there, they wouldn't be working on this advanced revenue management. People who are like 5 or 8 years of experience with NetSuite, only they will be able to handle this advanced revenue management. What happens as a part of this ARM is that we can recognize the revenue at various stages of a project,
Hmm.
right? So once the milestone is completed, let us say there's a 25% of revenue that gets accumulated there. So that is when we can recognize that revenue once that milestone is hit. And then another 25% at next milestone, another 25%. So likewise, they can actually divide your revenue that gets generated within NetSuite to be recognized in different stages of of a project, or it can be linked with your sales orders as well, right? So once you enable this advanced revenue management, there is something called as revenue elements, revenue arrangements, and revenue plans, right? Now these are the ones which get generated. You can specify what is your start date and end date for that particular sales order. When is it going to be closed? What is the next milestone? And once that is done, you would be able to create revenue plans based on your revenue um, elements, right? There are the items are called as the revenue elements, and then you have your um, revenue plans that can be generated using this ARM feature. Okay.
Hmm.
So there are certain rules that you can create, the revenue rules. So based on the revenue rules, the revenue arrangements would get generated automatically. And then probably end of our, our training, I know I might take just about a class for you to understand how the revenue works. Probably we'll just take one transaction. We will see how
Okay.
the, revenue plans are generated, how the revenue arrangements are generated based on the rules
Okay.
that we have there. Okay. So
Okay.
once this is enabled, right, this is where you would be able to see those things. Let me scroll down and revenue arrangements. There you go. Okay. So you will have the revenue arrangements, revenue allocating revenue arrangements, right? All these things we have to do it. I mean, there's something called as update the revenue arrangements and revenue recognition plans. Okay. So all these things, they get enabled only when you enable that ARM feature. Now, if that ARM is not enabled, usually in a standard environment, the ARM wouldn't be enabled, right? If that is not enabled, you would not be able to see anything that you see here, right? From this arrangements, plans, and allocating revenue, whatever you see as revenue will not be available if you do not enable that ARM feature that is visible over here.
Okay.
Okay. And this is your amortization, right? You can amortize your um, payments. So where are you gonna see them? Again, you scroll down to your financial. Okay. Okay, this is where the allocation schedules are. This is, allocation, the expense allocation that we spoke about. This is where the allocation schedules would be created, and this is how the amortization. There are certain amortization templates that you create before getting it here, and then you will do the transactions. Those schedules will be available here under the lists. Amortization schedules. If you go into accounting, scroll down. See these revenue events and rules. These are also part of that ARM that we spoke about earlier. Revenue elements, rules, plans, events, event types. All these things are a part of your ARM option, right? Here's where you have your amortization schedules and amortization templates. So first you have to create those amortization schedules, templates, and then you would be
Hmm.
able to, when you're doing the vendor bills, that is when you can amortize those vendor bills based on the templates that you see here.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Um, yeah. So this is about the multi-book accounting, by the way. So this is one other advanced feature that NetSuite has. Like you can have your primary accounting book and you can have a secondary accounting book, right? So that is when you will use this multi book accounting feature that you have. Unfortunately, at least I have not worked on the multi-book accounting earlier, right?
Okay.
So that is something that I would not be able to explain in detail, but then you will have
Mm-hmm.
all the information on your help page, just in case if you want to explore about multi-book accounting, you can do that. I did work on the advanced revenue management. I can explain you that amortization, the expense allocations and everything we will go through, but then
Okay.
multi-book accounting is something that I wouldn't be able to cover for you.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
All right. And then coming to the tax structure, right? So there are certain advanced taxes. So NetSuite for United States, right? This is a perfect combination that you have for NetSuite because 90% of the customers that NetSuite has are from the United States. So what
Okay.
NetSuite has done is the tax structure is automatically created for NetSuite. All you have to do is there is something called as Nexus. Okay, you go into accounting.
Mm-hmm.
When you scroll down onto the tax structure, okay, you can create a nexus of your choice. Nexus in the sense any state nexus for that matter: Florida, California, New
Mm-hmm.
York, New Jersey, anything that Newark, any state that from the United States, you can create nexus. So once you create your nexus, the tax control accounts get created automatically. That's part one. And then the tax control accounts are nothing but your VAT accounts and the statistical accounts: VAT on purchase, VAT on purchase, sale. So these VAT on both. So these are some of the control accounts that get created automatically. Now, along with that, there's something called as use state tax tables. So when you
Mm-hmm.
run this state tax tables, automatically your tax types, your tax codes, and everything get created based on this. So yeah, since we are talking about that, let's try and generate certain things and then we'll see how it works. Okay.
Okay.
So I go into the Nexus. As of now, I see the Texas, Ontario is from Canada. That's fine. And United States is North Carolina. So let me create. Okay. Before I create that, I just wanted to show you something. So I scroll down. Uh, let's open up the tax control accounts, tax types, and codes. Okay. So if I go into my tax types right now, I select my country, which is United States. Okay. So these are the tax types which are there right now: the transit, the state, other one county, and all these things, right? So if I go into my tax codes, I select United States. Okay. And then I see that I have 114 tax codes as of now. And for which states? One is for North Carolina, and the other is for is everything for North Carolina? I don't think so. Hold on. Oh, everything is from North Carolina as of now. Okay, that's cool. Right. So what we do is I go back to my Nexus. I somehow suspect that for the state Texas, the table was not run, and that is the reason I don't see the tax codes over here. Okay. So what I do is I go into my setup, accounting, scroll down to my tax structure again, and I go into this use state tax tables. All right.
Mm-hmm.
My nexus is already created for Texas. Okay. However, I don't see the tax codes in here. Right. So what I do is I go to my state tax import table. I select Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I save it. Once I do that, I suppose let me okay. So once the tax codes are created, right, once the sales tax import, it actually begins in a little while. And whoever is the main contact on your NetSuite instance, as of now, it's training feedback@netsuite.com. However, there would be a company email address which would be specified as a return email over there, right? So once these state tables, the tax codes are generated, it sends an email automatically to that particular email that is specified here. So let's go back to the tax codes, and then we'll see if the tax codes are generated. Okay, I see 1295 right now. You see this?
Yes, I
So
do.
the Texas codes are generated automatically, and whole lot of Texas codes actually. I think about 1100 something Texas codes which were not there earlier. These are all the Texas codes right now. And the reason why you have that is NetSuite backend tables have got this data already fed into them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all these options that you see here based on Texas, ZT, ZK, right? So these are all the different codes that we have there. And based on the zip codes, when you're doing the sales transaction, right? Based on the zip codes, it picks up the rate automatically
Okay.
based on the zip code that you have specified on your customer record over there when you're putting in the address. So based on that, it picks up the rate code automatically, rate percentage, by the way. Okay. So this is how it works. Now, if you want me to show another nexus, I can add another nexus. It's the simple way. I mean, you just have
Um,
to.
so let us add New York. Let's see.
Oh, sure. I've added New York. I go into the state import tax tables import again. So here you would be able to, see the tax accounts as well. So I don't know if I can filter it by country or something, but there you go. So this says tax payable Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and then sales. Is that the only one for Texas? I see. Yeah, I think that's the only one. But then for Ontario, you've got PST expenses, Ontario PST payable Ontario. So these are all automatically created by NetSuite when you create your Nexus. Okay. So I refresh
Mm-hmm.
that, and I would see the New York sales tax payable tax account, which got created automatically now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. So let's go back to our state tax import table. Okay. Scroll down already. And then I select New York. Okay. So this is the tax agency. And this is the tax account which got selected automatically. You see it here because this has to be created. So when you are dealing with the other countries other than United States, right? Let us say you're dealing with the other countries. So this procedure that we are not doing is not automated. Okay. So you have to create your nexus first. Then you have to create your tax type. All right. And then you got to create your tax codes, by the way. So how do you create your tax codes manually? I'm going to show that as well. So this is your state tax import table, right? Um, Click on save. This automatically is going to create the tax codes for us as far as New York is concerned, right? Let's go back to our tax codes and we'll see what's the number that's it's going to increase. See, just another 800 or 900 added right away for my New York tax codes, right? I can scroll down to my New York. Where is it? Okay, looks like it's too far away. There you go. Here's where my New York starts. All right. So there are certain counties that we have in New York: Otsego, Oneida, Olean, Norwich, right? These are some of the countries and counties that we have. So based on that, NetSuite automatically generates all these tax codes, right? So on the sales transaction, it gives you an option to select these tax codes as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are dealing with the other countries, let's say for United Kingdom, then the state tax import chart table that we've done right now is not going to work out. Okay, you have to create your nexus, and then you've got to create the tax type over here along with the tax accounts, right? The tax accounts also have to be created manually by clicking on tax account, and you select your let us say your country wherein I don't know, maybe for Ontario, if you want to create something. So you can do this. You can put in the name for your tax control account, And then what is the tax account type? What is the type that you have if it is purchase or sale? Now, once that is done, what you have to do is on the tax codes, click on the tax code, select your state, country, by the way, it's Canada maybe. So you have to specify what's the tax name. You've got to give it a display name, and then you specify what the rate is. Okay. And here is where you have to select your tax agency. So once you create your nexus, the tax agency would be created automatically. So you just have to select, let's say Ontario tax agency, right? So this is your purchase tax account, the control account that we have created here. This is the control account that we were speaking about, right? So on the tax code, you have to specify your control account, your sales tax account, and then you save your tax code. Okay. Now, this is one thing that you have to remember, that if you are implementing it for your customers, I mean, I know that you would be an end user on the NetSuite, but if you are implementing it for your customers, this information, the entire information is provided by your customer. Okay. You don't have to worry about what's going to be my tax name, what's going to be my percentage of tax, and all these things. Okay. So any questions on this tax part that we spoke about?
I think no questions for now, but maybe when we start getting into transactions, we'll see it again. But for now,
Yeah,
no
absolutely.
questions.
So there is something called as tax schedules as well, wherein you can generate, if it is a non-taxable or if it is taxable, you can actually specify that over your, if you select this as non-taxable, then it's not gonna, generate the tax uh, in that particular transaction. At the line level, you will, at the item level, in fact, when you're generating an item, that is when you will have taxable and non-taxable options specified over there. So you can actually select if it is taxable or non-taxable from there. Okay. 1 second. Taxable, no, it says. All right. And here, if I go into the taxable option, I edit, I have to say that these are taxable. That is when you will be able to select the tax code from the drop down over there. Okay, that's one thing. Coming to your, okay, now before you do all these things, there's something called as setup taxes as well. Okay, so before you generate your nexus and before you generate your tax control codes and tax types and everything, there is setup taxes as well. Okay, so this is where you have to specify, do you want to enable the tax lookup on sales orders and purchase orders, right? So unfortunately, there's no field help for this. But what this does is, this is the one which actually selects the tax codes based on the zip code that I was talking about earlier. Okay. So this is for Afghanistan, by the way. So, you've got United States here. Customers default to taxable. Do you want the customers as taxable or not? And what is the default code that you can select? You have to specify what is the default code, when you're doing it for the customers. And you can select for California. The tax control account has not been selected. So, okay, I don't see the preferred tax agency for California. This is strange. Usually we will have the tax agency getting created automatically when we do the California. So let's do this. Let's run the state tax template for California as well. And we'll see. I mean, the codes would be generated, I'm sure about that. But let's see if the preferred tax agency gets generated as well, right? So let's select California. Oh, there you go. The tax agency is not there. This is strange. Default tax agency. Why is it not there? I do not have one for California. Uh, okay. There seems to be some scripting error. Let's try this again. What's this? Mm, okay. I don't know. Usually the tax agency gets selected automatically. Oh, I don't see it again. This is strange. Why? Okay. I don't know if it allows me to do that. Values. Tax type list. Uh tax codes include, okay, tax type list. What's the tax type? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. Um, This is the one that we were trying, right? This is fine. There's something missing. I think it's gonna be okay. It's state tax paid in California for everything. Mm, provide follow values for the following fields of tax agency. Tax agency. Yeah, tax agency. Okay. I think maybe I just have to refresh this once because I have created the tax agency California a little later, right? So I might have to refresh this and then do it all over again. Uh, oops. I don't see the California thing again. Okay. What did we miss out on here? Uh, 1 second. So because usually the tax agencies like the vendors, this gets created as a vendor. Now this gets created automatically when we add the nexus, in fact, which did not happen. So looks like it has not taken the tax agency from here. uh, Vendor, on the vendor, what are we supposed to do? Oops, nothing seems to be working on this. Oh, okay. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's delete this tax agency. Let me go back to the Nexus. Let me see if I can delete that California Nexus from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there you go. That's not, this is the problem. On the Nexus, the preferred tax agency is not there. There's no option for me to delete this as well. Let me see this. California state province is selected. All tax codes. Can I not create tax agency from here? Tax agencies. Looks like I do not have the permission for that.
Okay.
Okay, let's look into that. But the actual scenario is that, you know, whenever you create it for United States, the procedure is pretty simple. You create a nexus, you run that state tax import chart, and all the tax codes, you know, your tax control accounts and everything gets created automatically. But if it is you know, a country that you're dealing outside of the United States, then you would have to do these things manually. You create a nexus, you create your control accounts, and then you create your tax types and tax codes manually from there. Okay. I'll see why this California has been created like this, and I don't have an option to delete my nexuses. There usually when I just edit this, I would have an option, but I think it's because of the permissions that we do not have an option to delete the nexus. But if you go into the Texas, right, you see the tax agency. This is how it gets generated automatically when you're creating the nexus, right? Whenever there you go. So when let's create one more. I'll show you how that works. As of now, I do not have the tax agency, right? So once I save it, okay, the Alabama already exists. So let me do something else. Colorado. So once I save it, and when I go back to my nexus, right? See, you see this? This has to get generated automatically. But unfortunately for the California, somehow that didn't get generated because, you know, it could be many reasons. Maybe, you know, by that time the system might have gotten disconnected or something like that. But here in the actions, you will have an option to delete that in the edit mode. But unfortunately, oh, I have it for this. Oh, this is strange. See this? It's got created correctly, and that's the reason I have an option to delete. But when I go into this United States, California, and see this, there's no delete option as well. So it got stuck in between somehow. It could be a technical glitch with something. Okay, let me do this. Let's try doing it with one different tax agency, and then we'll try to delete it, okay? Oh, I don't have the delete for this as well. So I don't know. So let's try to run the state tax table now and see what happens. So these are some of the glitches that, you know, probably we can identify and let the support team know about, like, you know, these kind of things have been stuck. So let's go to the state tax import. Go California. My Alabama tax agency is selected for this, which is incorrect, by the way. I do not want that to happen, but let's see how it works. If you go to the tax codes right now, I'm pretty sure the California tax codes must have been created. Yeah, there you go. These are my California's tax codes. But yeah, I mean, the agency is selected incorrectly. But then when you are getting the codes, right, there is on the code, you will have the agency listed down like this. So this is not how it's supposed to be, but then it just got created. Okay. All right. So I think we've discussed extensively about the tax structures, the nexus, and everything.
Right.
So let us go back to our enable features part. we were in the transactions actually. No, in the tax part. Yeah, tax is done. So let's go to the transactions now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in the transactions, there are certain basic features like your estimates, your sales orders, your return authorizations, right? So if you don't enable these things like the sales order and the purchase orders, then it's as simple as that. You won't find these purchases and sales option wherein you will have these enter sales orders, enter purchase orders. All these options would not be there.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, you want to enable these estimates, the return authorizations for the purchase orders or the request for quote requisitions. And all these things are the transactions that you can enable and disable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So since we see the purchase contracts and blanket purchase orders on the screen right now, let's discuss a little about that. Now, this is an advanced topic that usually, is part of the procurement cycle. So what is a purchase contract? On a purchase contract, you can create your own contract with a vendor, right? Now, let us say there is a vendor who provides your item A for $1,000. Okay. Now, the same item, if you are purchasing from a vendor B, let us say, right? The same item, by the way, he provides that for, let's say, $990 only.
Mm-hmm.
So you can create a contract with this particular vendor as to, for how many months is he going to do that? Probably, let's say, end of September 2024, right? So you can create a purchase contract till September 30th. You can specify who the vendor is going to be, and you can specify what the item is, okay? So that when you are creating a purchase order next time, you enter this item, you select this item, you select the vendor, then automatically it picks up this $999 instead of the $1,000. That is what your purchase contract actually does. What we are saying is that, against a vendor and against a particular item, whenever I purchase so-and-so item from a vendor till so-and-so date, I'm going to get a little discount on that item. Let's say a 5% or a 10% discount on the actual price. You can select, you can create a purchase contract, and at the line level, when you're putting in the purchase order at the line level, you will have an option to select your purchase contract, by the way. It automatically selects the purchase contract as and when you select that item and the vendor, of course, right? But then you can create multiple purchase contracts as well. Like, you can create a same combination again and say that the start date is going to be this, right? Not this, maybe October 1st. So after October 1st till end of December 31st, if I purchase this item, I'm going to get more discount on this. Let's say I get it only for $950. So you can specify this too. And then if these two purchase contracts are active, okay, do not get confused about it right now, because when we do the transactions, I will show you how the purchase contracts actually work. So you can select this purchase contract 1 or, purchase contract 2 as per your convenience. If it is within those dates, obviously it will select the same options that you have over there. That is your purchase contract. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now coming to the blanket purchase orders. Okay, so we were looking at the blanket purchase orders, right? So there are two options. One, these are the advanced procurement module, by the way. Customer has to pay a little more to get these two options enabled for them: the blanket purchase orders and the and the purchase contracts. So how does a blanket purchase order work? Now let us say I want to purchase item A from my vendor, whoever it is. I want to purchase 100 quantity at an interval of 1 month. Okay, so every month, on 1st of every month, I can set up a blanket purchase order saying that 1st of May, 1st of June, 1st of July, I want this particular purchase order to be triggering 100 quantity of the purchase order. Okay, so you can select a blanket purchase order, by the way. So let me just show you the navigation. It's under transactions, purchases, This is your purchase contract and this is your blanket purchase order. Okay. So you can create your blanket purchase orders in such a way that every month, the first of every month, you would have these 100 quantity of so and so item
Hmm.
getting generated as a purchase order. Of course, the purchase manager should approve those purchase orders, and that's when the procurement team will be able to go ahead and do an item receipt on that, or send that to a vendor, do a vendor bill, and all sorts of things. I mean, the purchase order process would still be the same. However, there's only one process for the blanket purchase order, wherein you can specify what is your quantity, and there are two ways actually. You can either generate the purchase order at the lead time automatically, which is first of every month, or you can do that manually as well. So if you select manually, you don't have to wait for first of every month. Probably 15th of next month, I need another 100 quantity of that purchase order. Then you can select the option as manually, and then you can uh, create a purchase order out of that. Okay, so
Hmm.
all these are enabled for you. The requisition comes a little before purchase order. Request for quote, requisitions, you can actually put them in before the purchase orders have been done. So there might be a business case wherein there are no vendor return authorizations at all, right? You purchase something, but you never send it back, even if the quantity is bad or good or whatever it is, depending on the business that they do. Maybe they do not want to return the item. So that case, the vendor return authorizations will be disabled from here. Okay.
Hmm.
Any questions on that?
No questions.
Okay. So when it comes to the multiple prices, right? On the item level, this is for the sales, by the way, sales transaction. So on the item level, you can actually specify multiple prices for each item. So I go into the accounting, items, new. This is how we create new items, by the way. I'll show that to you a little later. So on the sales, if I scroll down, there are like non-inventory items, inventory items. So as of now, let's select an inventory item for us. Okay. Now if I scroll down, I go to the sales pricing. There are different tabs that you can see here. One is the purchase inventory, one is the sales pricing. So if I go into the sales pricing and scroll down, okay. So this is what your multiple pricing actually means. All right. Pricing levels. These are the different pricing levels that you have. Multiple prices in the sense, you can have your base price. Let's say this is my base price for, let's say, $150. So these base prices can be defined in multiple currencies. You can have it for British pound, you can have it for Canadian dollar, euro, Indian rupee, Pakistan. So whatever currencies that you have created, right, in those currencies, you will be able to do that. Okay. So what is
Hmm.
quantity pricing? What quantity pricing is that if I have this alternate price 1, 2, 3, so what happens is if you're going to set up accounting and then accounting lists, okay, here you have pricing level, right? As of now, on the alternate price, there is no discount specified. So this is where you define the price levels, by the way. So on the inventory item, you see this alternate price 1, 2, 3 online price. This is where it is getting it from. Okay. So what I say is I go into my alternate price one and I say that with this, I have a minus 5% discount. Okay. Minus 5% on my base price. So it always picks up the base price. Now, when I go to the alternate pricing two, I say 10% discount, right? And then I go to the alternate pricing three, and here I can say probably 15%. Now, when I go into my inventory item, let's refresh that right now because we have done that. So I scroll down. Sorry, let me go back up uh, into the sales pricing tab. Now scroll down. You see this? The discounts
Hmm.
are appearing here right now. What I have specified over there, That's a discount. Now I can specify what my base price is, and it automatically picks up my discount on the alternate price. So these base price, alternate price, 2, 3, whatever I see here, I will have an option to select it at the sales order level. Okay. And this is my quantity pricing. So I say that 0 to 50, it's going to be $100, and 50 to 100 is going to be another one. All right. Uh, let's say 101 to, 100 to 150, and then like this. Okay. Now what I can do is, let's say if I sell 50 quantity, then I'm going to give customer at $98 only, $96, $94, $90. So I can specify like this. And when I select 51 quantity on my sales order, then it automatically picks up this price. It does not pick up 100 over there. Okay. Okay, as of now, I'll not be able to save because I've not done anything on the item. I'll have to specify what the name is, what all these things are. So this is how the quantity levels actually work. This is called quantity pricing based on the quantity. Okay, this is what is quantity pricing. Now, the other thing that you can do is, instead of specifying the quantities over here, okay, I go into lists, accounting, and it's an accounting. When I scroll down, there's something called as quantity pricing schedule somewhere. Hold on, let me check that. Accounting quantity pricing schedule. So it's in here only. Why am I not able to find pricing schedules? Yeah, there you go. Here it is. So click on new. Let me open this in a different tab. And here I can specify okay, what's my quantity? Let's say, no, it's a 50. Okay, discount percentage 5%. No, it's 5. Till 100, it's gonna be -8. 150, it's gonna be -10. Okay, I can specify like this. You can specify what the units types are as well. Only 4 non-zero quantity levels are allowed. Okay, so the reason it's allowing only 4 is there is an accounting preference. Again, I'll show you what the preference is, wherein you can specify how many number of quantity pricing schedules you can define as well. Okay, so let's go back to our inventory item. Refresh this. Instead of giving this manually over here, what I do is when I create an item, I can specify at the CSV import level that I want this particular quantity pricing schedule. Okay, when I do this, all the discounts get carried over automatically. I see the -5, 8, 12, 10 that I've created there, and all I have to do is just specify what my base price is. Everything else gets calculated automatically. Okay, any questions on this?
No questions.
Great. So likewise, you can actually do this for British pound as well. On the British pound, let us say this is only 190 pounds. Everything gets calculated. Again, on the Canadian dollars, maybe it's just about $180. So everything gets carried. And automatically, the best part of Netsuite is that when you specify the quantities in your sale order, let's say if the quantity is between 50 and 100, then it selects -5. And as and
Right.
when the quantity is between 101 and 150, and it selects this 165 as a base price. And you still have an option to select the alternate price 1, 2, 3 over there in the line level.
Got it.